S-P-A-N-K.
What?
S-P.
Not recommended by S-P-A-N-K.
Not on television.
I-N-G, S.
Good, okay. Anybody have any questions? If you have questions, just fire them out, but otherwise we'll let Mom.
How did they decide to settle in Hull, Iowa? Is that where Grandpa had?
Yeah, what made him come to Hull?
Well, a lot of immigrants came there at that time. It was a big church community, and I imagine probably the sponsors were the people that were primarily responsible for bringing them to Hull. Every immigrant at that time come into our country without a sponsor, and that sponsor had to take care of them. If he couldn't get a job, that sponsor had to take care of him until he did get a job. And most of the Dutch people that came, they went right to work, and they were very conscientious about that. And many of them did very well, of course.
Did he come over with any kind of a trade experience?
No, my dad did not have my dad had a 6th grade education, and then he went to work over there too, and didn't find it very profitable, so then he came to interesting, the boat ride took about 2 weeks at that time.
Wow.
It's quite a journey from over the ocean, and that ocean could get very, very stormy at times, and a lot of sick people came to our country because of the water.
Came with his whole family, didn't he?
Came with other members of his family. He had although not all his brothers and sisters came at that time.
Not at that time?
No, they came.
How about Aunt Fanny?
They all came a little later.
Oh, yeah?
How would you, Dad, how would you describe your father? As far as what he did, what he was like, what he did for a living?
My father became on his own after they got married, and he was a hard worker. Farming was hard work at that time. Everything had to be done by hand. He milked the cows by hand. You walked behind cultivators, you walked behind seeders, and we walked, after I was born and got to be 6, 7 years old, I used to walk the field back and forth, a half a mile up and a half a mile back, and do that all day long, cultivating or hauling bales or something. But he was a hard worker. But he also was a good salesman. And later on in his life, he turned his farm over to my brother, my oldest brother, and he went into full-time sales, buying and selling dairy cattle, and made a very good living doing that. And he was a very sharp disciplinarian at home. We had us kids had to toe the line.
How many kids?
We had five of us. I had my older brother. 2 years later, I was born. 2 years after that, my sister was born. 2 years after that, I had a brother born. And 2 years after that, I had a sister born. My oldest, or my year-and-a-half brother at that time died, and from double pneumonia. And then they had that little girl, and she lived just one day, and she died. And then my brother Burr was born, and his name was Berwin. He named the same name that the one had that died. Was also a Berwin. And then we had Fred after 3-4 years after Burr again. I don't know how many years we're every 2 years there for a long time. We had a baby. We were all born at home until the latter ones. The doctor came over to the house and delivered us. When my little brother died, we had the body in the living room. The living room was cold. We kept the living room cold, and people, friends, and relatives came to see Berwin in the coffin in our own living room. and was buried right out of our own house.
Right on the property then?
No,
Oh,
at the cemetery. Yeah.
at the cemetery?
But we didn't go to a funeral home for things like that.
Yep.
But I remember if we didn't toe the line on the yard, and my dad would come home and would get told what we had done, and my dad says, "Bill, come here." And I would stand there and say, "No. You come here," he said. "Right here." And boy, we better do it. And we had to come right there and take our licking. And we used to clean all the sticks up off in the yard. Because my dad would grab the first stick he could find and he'd whop us over our butt with it. But he always did it, "You come here!" And my dad didn't move.
He wouldn't chase you, huh?
He didn't chase me one
You
bit.
have to.
But he was also a great Christian education backer. Mother was too, and Christian education was very important to them. And they sacrificed for it. One interesting little story, my brother was born, my oldest brother, 2 years before I was. He came to the house and delivered Bud. And my dad says, "Well, Doc," he says, "well, how much do I owe you?" "Well, Fred," he says, "I usually get $25, but give me what you can." And my dad gave him $15.
Hmm.
And that's what it cost to deliver
Delivered.
him into this world.
Huh. That was the doctor bill, huh?
That was the doctor bill.
Today's what,
Can you
2,500?
imagine a doctor
Yeah.
doing that?
All of that.
All of that, I guess.
35?
Yep.
What do you remember most about your mom?
Oh, I remember my mom as a teacher. She was a good teacher. She was a conscientious teacher. She taught us kids a lot of things. She taught us a lot of poems, and we'd do little skits at home and with all of us kids, and she'd direct all of that. And very, again, a conscientious Christian education backer. She taught in a Christian school in Perkins, where we lived, and she also taught for a couple of years in Baldwin, Wisconsin, before she was married. And
She wasn't
Good mother.
allowed, she wasn't allowed to teach after she was married. That was the rule.
Oh, yeah?
They couldn't teach after they were married.
Good.
but I remember when I got the telephone call here that my mother had died. And I flew from here to Minneapolis, and from Minneapolis to Sioux Falls, and went to Mother's funeral. And we walked into the funeral home to view the body for the first time after she had died. I remember telling the kids, "There's the woman that led us all to the Lord."
Oh, yeah.
And that was her.
So,
More effective that way than my dad was.
Yeah.
Well, my dad was a sincere Christian.
mhm. But she expressed it more
Oh, yeah.
in words and,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, she played the role of teaching us kids, bringing us kids up, just like you and I. We worked and we left the bringing up of our children mostly up to our wives. And it was that way then too. My dad was always out in the field.
Yeah. Now, what about those skits you did? What did she do? Make up a
Oh,
story and then
well,
have
she
you play
had
parts?
things that she had picked up when she was teaching school and stuff, and had her kids do, and then she'd have us do them at home.
Did they have like a lesson to them or?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
And like I used to go around, do a lot of speaking myself after Mother taught me the mail order lady, which was a Yankee Dutch reading, and I went all over and did that thing, and I was about 8, 9 years old, and I was standing up there talking Dutch and Yankee Dutch, and people just laughing their guts out. But it was all about a Negro, and so I can't do it anymore today. I still know it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never forget it.
I remember
That
this.
would be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
Was it
remember
Squash
you
the
saying-
Pete?
No, it was the mail order lady, the guy that ordered a wife through the
He
mail.
ordered her to be his
So you
bride.
couldn't do any of it for us? Do you remember any of it?
Oh,
or
I
not?
know the whole thing.
How's that editor work?
I don't know.
Great.
Feel free.
Can you hand that for us? Yeah, well.
Revised history here.
Well, Yankee Dutch, Dad, was a cross between English and Dutch.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's been.
Yeah, so you
You
could,
almost have to know some Dutch in order to grasp. You can grasp a lot of it, but you almost need to know some Dutch in order to get the whole thing. But people, I used to go to wedding anniversaries and weddings, and everywhere I went, I had to give that speech.
Is that where you gained your confidence as far as getting up in front of
A
people?
lot of it, and in speech class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie wants to know how you get along with your brothers.
How I get along with my brother.
How did
How you did
survive?
get,
How
how
did
did
you
you
Oh,
get
how
along?
did I?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. I guess I got along with my older brother better. We used to clean the house together, and he did the washing, and,
Play ball with them at all, or not?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
They played ball so much right up at Baxter School, and I would tag along with them and watch them or keep score.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They played ball a lot.
Mhm.
So,
But they also fought once in a while, Jamie, just like you did.
yeah,
It's normal.
I'm sure we did.
I fought with my brother and sister too.
We couldn't argue over the television because we never had one. Till after we were married.
No video games?
No
video
video games.
Ask Grandma if she likes smooches from her dad.
Edit that
I
out.
came here into Michigan when I was 17 years old, and I went to Calvin a couple of years. And that was the first time that I ever lived in a house that had an inside job,
Wow.
When was that?
when I was 17,
1950?
50.
Otherwise, it was always an outhouse.
Always had an outhouse at home.
Didn't you do some naughty things?
My dad
with that?
modernized it and put a nice electric heater in there when we got electricity. And he ran a long cord all the way out there. And then when he'd get up in the morning, he'd throw the switch on, and then about 20 minutes later, he'd go to the job. When it was warmed up
That
a
was
little
after you
bit.
were married.
Oh, yeah, even then, yeah.
Did they move the outhouse every so
Oh, yeah, every once in a while.
His job was
Krista wants to know if you did anything naughty.
with the outhouse.
Grandpa, you told me.
Well, on Halloween night,
I was
we'd
gonna
move
say,
it back,
Halloween.
we'd move it back about 3 feet, and then somebody would come to it and they'd fall into the hole. No, I really never did that. I used to do it.
you knew other people?
You knew other people that did.
Yeah, he had his share.
Yeah, we were.
And what about when you were at college and what your mom would send you mail? Or what you'd send her? And
I sent my clothes home. She did all my laundry when I was living here in
From
Grand
Michigan to
Rapids. I had a nice aluminum square box. The one fit over the other one, just
I
like a lid.
remember that
And there was
suitcase.
straps around it, and I would mail all my laundry home to Iowa. And she'd wash it, and she'd put it back in the thing and wrap it up again and send it back.
weren't there some cookies inside?
Oh, there'd be cookies inside and a little
Was shipping cheaper than
a $10 bill once in a while. and-
Oh.
Pardon?
shipping was cheaper than the laundry service?
I suppose, I guess so. I don't remember what it cost.
He didn't know how to wash.
I didn't know how to wash.
You probably didn't change your clothes too often then either.
It'd probably take a few days to come back, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it took at least a week to make the
Circuit?
circuit, yeah.
Still warm from the dryer.
Yes.
I don't think they had dryers.
Oh, that's right.
Everything got hung
Would be-
outside on the farm.
What made you want to come to Grand Rapids to go to college? Were you sick of Iowa?
I wasn't sick of Iowa. I guess I didn't want to be a farmer. In that sense, I was sick of Iowa, I guess. But I had in my mind to become a minister. When I went to Calvin, I took a pre-sem course for 2 years.
What made you decide against it?
Couldn't handle Greek. I took English, Greek, Dutch, and Latin in one semester, and I couldn't handle
Oh, my.
it. And
How'd you heat your beds, Dad?
no beds were heated at all.
How about the brick?
We had a cold, then we'd have icicles on our nose in the morning.
Are you
that cold.
serious?
Was that cold up there.
Oh, wow.
Snot froze.
Yeah.
I remember sleeping up there.
I do too.
Do you?
So there was quite a bit of difference from how you were raised up as far as the things you kind of take for granted, like, you know, heat and, did you have indoor plumbing and,
No.
but mom did though.
Yeah.
Mom always did. No, we carried our water and heated up our bath water. We got a bath once a week on Saturday. That was the only time we got a bath. And it was sort of a sponge bath type of thing, a tub, and we put a big kettle of hot water in it and cooled it off with some cool water and bathe ourselves. And
Oh, we couldn't find it.
Did you save the water for the next one then?
yeah, sometimes
Who was the cleanest guy?
more than one
You
bathed
go
in
from
it.
the cleanest to the dirtiest?
Oh, dear.
Oh, man, when I think back to that stuff, living was really tough then. No electricity. And we milked cows and everything, and that had to be done in the dark. And we'd carry lanterns, kerosene lanterns, and finally they came out with gas lanterns and with the mantles on them, remember those? And finally got electricity, but man, life was tough on those people. All the luxuries we've got today that they didn't have at that time. We had the car standing outside in the wintertime, and we got a lot of snow. Winters were tough. Maybe because we didn't have the facilities to handle weather like that, like we have today. We get cold weather like we had last week, right? We had to live with it. And to get the car started in the morning, my dad had a pan about that high and about that big around, fill it with cobs, put kerosene over it, light it up with a match, and shove it under the crankcase of the car to get the oil to a point where we could crank the car to get it started.
Wow.
Just to start the car in the morning.
Now you just push a button.
Yeah, now you push a button.
Inside.
Inside
And
the
maybe
house.
and from inside the
Hear that,
house.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why you never, I saw my dad do that so often, and he'd light that thing up and poof, it'd go, and he'd shove the thing under the crankcase and let her sit there for 10 minutes, and then he'd get inside and turn the switch on and pull the choke out a little bit and then go to the front and crank that thing. Unbelievable. It seemed like we got so much snow at that time, and it was colder than what it is today, it seems.
You
But I
burn it?
think a lot of us that we weren't able to handle those conditions like we can today.
Would you say you just had a potbelly stove?
Had a potbelly stove in one room in the house.
Would you burn in there wood then? Or,
Wood and cobs, and then we bank it off with coal at night, so that you keep a little heat in there during the day.
cold last, too?
Yeah. Milk the cows by hand. Man, I milked so many cows by hand. Got kicked against the side of the barn one day
By cow.
by a cow. He went up in the air with his back legs and grabbed me right here, whipped me right against the side of the barn. Had tooth knocked out and, it was a mess.
Did you wallop it then?
Oh, I didn't qualify. I was laying there cold, I guess.
We know now.
Yeah.
What were Sundays like at your house? Besides going to church?
3 times.
I mean, there's hardly any time left, but in between.
We got to a point where we could play catch, but we couldn't play ball. We could
there's a
ride
difference.
we could ride a 3-wheeler, but not a 2-wheeler, because the 2-wheeler we could go too far. We never took more than a Sabbath day's journey, so,
Right.
We could never even do that. We
no.
couldn't play.
No, that was
Neither
liberal
could
at
we.
our house, that we
No,
could
I
play catch.
know.
All the bitterness, isn't it?
And all of that stuff just doesn't make sense to me now either. But it served one purpose. It served to teach me that Sunday is different. And my folks taught me that way by using some stupid thing. But they taught me And I did that with my own. If it didn't do anything else, it taught them at least the fact that Sunday is different from the rest of the week. And we use crazy things to do that. And I'll admit that.
The dog doing.
And were any establishments open, any businesses besides hospital?
Boy, not much.
On Sunday,
They weren't even
Ramona,
Ramona.
roller skating rink was open.
And
And
why?
it was quite a story connected with that. Before maybe when I was small, but we got the history of Eastern Avenue Church. And there used to be streetcars that ran past the church.
Okay.
And there were kids that would get on the streetcar and take it to Ramona Park, to the ice skating or the roller skating rink
On Sunday.
on Sunday.
So were the inner city kids like?
No, they were our own.
Oh,
They were your own?
dear.
Black sheep.
Yep. And so somebody from the church tore up the railroad tracks, or the
People came from the church and tore up the railroad tracks.
they tore them out of the
So they
street,
couldn't-
so they
so they
couldn't
couldn't
do
go
it.
anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's like the Christians who shoot the abortion clinic doctor.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess.
Extreme measures.
Extreme measures, yeah.
Just to make a point.
Yeah.
How about the Lions, they win back then or not?
Not to the
I've
importance.
never heard of the Tigers either. I didn't even know anything about the Hawkeyes. I learned a lot since I've
We
been.
heard rumors the Lions won back in the 30s. Were they around in the 50s? But
I
we
keep
don't know.
saying that, but we haven't got anybody to verify that.
Yeah, baseball was there. I remember Bob Feller for the Cleveland Indians. Followed that a little bit.
What'd you do for fun when you were young?
No fun for the Dutch.
Go to church.
It wasn't much fun when I was on a farm. It was always work, work, work. When I graduated from high school, and when I was going to high school, I started playing ball. That was always on Saturday night. The grocery shop, and I guess it was a kind of a big thing. We had 3 meals a day. We'd have breakfast, we'd have pancakes, we'd have sausage, we'd have bacon, and we'd have eggs. At 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, we'd either come home or mother would go out into the field with sandwiches and cake and coffee and punch and stuff like that. At 12 o'clock, we'd come home and have a pork chop dinner. At 3 o'clock, mother would come out to the field, or we'd come back home again and have some more sandwiches, some more cake, and at supper time, we'd have a beefsteak dinner. Potatoes both times.
And no one was obese.
No one was obese.
Remember that,
but we-
Ron?
But we worked hard,
Yeah.
and that's the way we ate all the time when we were on a farm.
Hmm.
2 big, full meals a day, and
Yeah,
plus a great big breakfast and two lunches.
Do you remember having a best friend?
Yes. Yeah, I had several best friends that I went all the way through grade school and high school with.
Uh-huh.
And
Did you have slumber parties? Did you sleep at each other's houses?
I don't remember. Yeah, we did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you call boys on the telephone then too?
No, because we didn't have telephone for a
Oh.
long time.
How did you survive without cell phones all that?
Yeah, I don't know.
We had a telephone on the wall with a speaker, and we'd have to walk up to that thing and lift it up and crank it. And if we get lightning and thunder, the fire would shoot out of that thing
Oh.
with a thunderstorm once in a
They
while.
ever call you place, do they have to go through an operator?
Oh, yeah.
You had to crank the whole time you talk, or just?
No, you had to crank to get a hold of the operator, and then you tell her what number you want, and
And she hooks you up.
she'd ring it for you.
How did cranking? They
Just spraying something?
No, send electricity through, it would light up the board.
I don't know.
Oh,
It'll generate a little juice.
Little magnet or something?
Well, I always say, if you people that are here now, as many changes in the next 50 years as I've seen in the last 50, I can't imagine what you folks are gonna see.
Living in outer space.
Yeah, I think too. I was telling somebody that the other day, you probably have your own spaceship if you're well-to-do and go into outer space whenever you want to.
The Jetsons.
What was the most significant historical event
That you can't forget.
when you were in your younger years?
That you can't
Probably when Pearl Harbor,
Pearl Harbor? What do you remember?
start of war. I was 7 years old and I was in the 2nd grade. It was on a Sunday.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about it?
Yeah, we had the little radio on at home.
Did you pretty much stay by the radio all day long?
I'm sure we did.
Dads did.
Kind of like September 11th, right?
Yeah, it was very comparable. Yeah.
December 7th, on Sunday. I was 9 years old. And I heard it when I came out of church. My dad used to sit with his ear as close to the radio as he could, you know, to hear. Walter Winchell was a big commentator at that time. And war, 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 that's all you heard.
Another one close to that would be when President Kennedy was shot.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you hear the original War of the Worlds? Were you listening at the time? When they played the radio show War of the Worlds?
Oh, I don't
No?
remember that.
Orson
I know
Welles?
what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest hoaxes of all time.
Yep.
Oh, really?
People thought it was real.
There was on radio, it's about the invasion of Martians, and
Oh, really?
yeah,
No, I don't remember.
many people
that.
believed it.
They did?
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of like
Just
Y2K,
panicking.
people started freaking out and doing all kinds of stuff.
The war was a big thing back in Iowa when I was a young man at that time. But our little town of Hull had a train come through there 3-4 times a day, passenger trains. And that's where our boys would leave from when they went to the service. And many people from church would go to, they knew that so-and-so was leaving tonight at 5, well, we'd go to the train station and see them off and wish them well. But on the other hand, on the return trips, we also did that. We knew they were coming home, and we'd go to the station and meet them. And also met a couple of the guys in coffins on the way back from Germany and Japan at that time. 2 guys from our church both came into Hull in coffins with a guard or with buddies with them that escorted their bodies back home. That was an impressive time. We had a flag in our church with 50-some stars on it of boys that were in the service, and 2 of them were gold. And 2 of them were the 2 gold ones were the 2 that had died.
Did you get ration stamps back then too?
Oh yeah, sugar was rationed, gas was rationed. We got stamps. What else?
Meat?
Meats were
You probably didn't
rationed.
have that.
Yeah, you probably didn't have that problem on the farm, did you?
No, we didn't.
As far as food,
We
no.
had our own. The gas and sugar, I remember, were heavily rationed. But there was a lot of attention paid at that time. I had cousins that were gone over there and been through a lot of things, and when they came home, had one cousin was a prisoner of war, you remember? I probably told you. He was a prisoner of war in Germany, and came home and was just a shot man the rest of his life. He saw so many things. And it was 60 years ago, just this past year, the battle of the invasion of Normandy invasion. And that's where he was taken captive. He was a paratrooper, and they dropped him in front of the lines instead of behind. And he got captured. And when he finally came home and was released, and we went to see him one night, and they lived next to the railroad tracks. And we were sitting there visiting, and the railroad, all of a sudden a train come rumbling past, And my cousin Bernie just sat quick and he was right underneath the table, just from hearing that noise.
Oh,
And this past year was the first time that he finally started talking about what really happened in at the invasion of Normandy. He held it inside all of his life,
This
That
one was
was in-
captured?
became a drunkard, and was a
That
drunk
was in the
most of his-
newspaper, right?
Yeah.
He went back to Normandy.
He went back to Normandy this year. His son took him back to Normandy, and he retraced some of the tracks that he had made at that time. And then he opened up and started talking about it. Made a big difference in his life. But just a wasted life after he got back to the service. My dad used to chase him. He'd get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. Bernie isn't home. Will you go? They say he's at such and such a bar. Will you go get him? My dad would go chasing after.
So whoever wants to tell that story.
Well, I lived in an area where there were lots of Calvin students living because they didn't have enough dorm space, so the guys would stay in homes. And at one time in the particular block where I lived, there were 23 Calvin students. And of course, us girls always wanted to make sure we were where they were. And so I knew that Dad was back in town for college. I did not date you the first year, did I? I dated a friend of his the first year, so I knew of him.
Oh my.
And so I knew that he would be coming past our house to go up to play the pinball machine. That's
So
what he
you
did.
had ulterior motives?
Yeah.
Ah, I
He
see.
played the pinball machine at a place on Wealthy Street. And so I made sure I was out cutting the lawn. I was cutting the lawn when he came by and he stopped and we talked. And he wanted to know if I wanted to go to a football game with him. So our first date was a game at Houseman Field between South and Ottawa.
Really?
Wow. South?
South.
Christian.
South High.
South High.
No football at Christian at that time.
Yeah.
So that was the start of it. I first had to convince my dad to let me go. And then after we were dating, I had to convince him that it was okay, even though he was a different religion.
Because he was Christian Reformed.
He was
and
Christian
you were
Reformed.
Protestant.
Right.
How'd your dad
that
feel
was like
about
being Catholic.
Right.
Yeah.
Catholic
He
and
was-
Protestant.
He was very outspoken as far as making sure that we didn't get serious. It was a big thing for him.
So he didn't want you to end up being married
Right.
to someone from the CRC.
No, he didn't.
Did he say anything to try to scare you?
No, he just said, aren't there other guys, you know, in church that you can date? And at the same time, I had just quit dating a guy that had a car exactly like his. One time, I think they both were in front of church, weren't they at the same time?
Waiting for you to come out?
Yeah.
Do you remember
But-
your first kiss together?
That was the night.
It was?
Grandpa would know.
That was their wedding night.
The first date.
I knew we held hands the first night, but I don't know if we kissed.
Maybe it's tonight. But when we finally decided that we wanted to marry each other, then of course I had to go and ask for the hand of my dad-in-law's daughter, and it was on Easter that I wanted to give her a ring, which was going to be on Sunday, and on Thursday night I was going to stop, or Thursday afternoon, my dad-in-law was home, so I thought I'll stop there, talk to him, and be out of there by the time Mother gets home from work and she won't know nothing about it. Well, it took me 6 hours to get out of there. And so mother came home while I was talking to her dad. And finally her dad, after we argued and argued and argued, and finally he said to me, he says, "Well," he says, "why don't you give her her ring?" And he says, "I'm sure you'll see it our way." I says, "Okay." So then when I gave her a ring on Sunday then, and then we set our date for marriage, and then mother went and told her dad, and her dad said, "Well, what did you decide with church?" And she said, "I'm going to go along with him." And he said, "Well, that's okay," he said, "but don't ever ask me for money."
No, he didn't say okay.
No, he didn't say okay. But he let us know right then and there that we didn't ever have to ask him for money. And then it was probably 3 or 4 years after we got married, I got my own house, and I put new storm windows all the way around the house. And my dad-in-law came there one night, and he said, "Pretty nice." He said, "How did you have enough money for that?" I says, "No." I said, "I'm making payments on it." Well, he says, "I tell you what," he says, you tell me how much it is," he says, "and we'll pay for it, and you can pay me back as you want to," he says. And he mellowed quite a bit. I always got along with him
Yeah.
very, very well after that.
He was very fond of you.
But he was very stuck in his ways. Probably the big thing that changed our mind when we were dating, she went to our church, I'd go to her church, and we went back and forth that way. And then one night we went to a young people's banquet of hers at their church, and Reverend Hoeksema was giving his sermonette there like he did every year. And he leaned over the lectern and he says, "Young people of the Protestant Reformed Church, if you ever consider leaving our church for the sake of a loved one, you're catering to the devil and taking your first steps to eternal damnation." And when that statement was made, I went like this. And my wife knew what was going on, my girlfriend at that time. And we got to the car that night, and I says, "Honey," I says, "if you don't want to come to our church, then we're going to have to say goodbye tonight." But we didn't. And I'm glad I didn't.
What a sweet story.
Yeah,
He did say if I turned him down, he was going to join the Army.
Oh, yeah.
We had our invitations made and everything before we decided what to do
About the church, you mean?
about the church.
I thought one time you said you were gonna try to go to Moss Church, it must have been before you were married, and then after you're married,
Oh, I don't think he said that.
So I changed my mind. No, we were both open-minded. We both went to each other's churches, and I sang in their male choir for a while, for a year or so.
yeah, that's what I thought, you went there for a while. Before you're married, all that?
Yeah.
The biggest difference between the churches?
Common grace. God showers rain on the just and on the unjust, but they say that the unjust, it's stored their damnation, and the only ones that will benefit from the rain are those that are saved.
He's stunned.
Common grace. You understand that?
No,
No?
if I think about it.
That split the church in 1924.
That split the church in
They had
19...
common roots, didn't they?
That's when her church split
yes.
off of our church
Right.
and became a
Say that again, what's
Protestant Reformed denomination.
Common grace.
Common grace.
Common grace.
Common
So
grace.
the rain of the blue, the where?
The scriptures say that it rains on the just and on the unjust, but they say that, and they say that it is not to the welfare of the unjust, because it's toward their damnation, whereas to the people of God it's a blessing, but it is not a blessing to the unjust.
That grace is not a blessing to
That's
God.
right.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Grace isn't a gift.
They don't believe it.
So they don't benefit from grace.
No,
Only the
just.
I see.
The just will. You say that for God so loved the world, and I say that's everybody. God loved everybody. They say, "Oh no, Only the elect.
Only the elect. Okay, now we're
Oh, it's
talking.
more of a
Now we're
predestination.
talking.
That's the world. The
Ah,
world
okay.
is the elect only.
Oh. That clears it up.
And that's still a big deal with them. It hasn't changed a bit.
But everything else is the same? Style of worship?
Yeah, they're much more,
Forms?
we're much looser now than what they are. They still sing only psalms in church. No hymns.
That's hardcore.
Let alone the 7-Elevens.
We always went to a cottage for a week.
Oh, did you?
Did you swim on Sunday at the cottage, Mom?
No, but you know the first time that we swam on Sunday, it was
It's 110 degrees.
it was in Fort Kearney, Nebraska, on the way back from Colorado.
Yeah.
We had to do that out of necessity. So hot.
Yeah.
But then,
Like Don Zondervan used to say, well, go swimming, but don't drown
Drown
today.
on
Wait till tomorrow.
yeah,
Don't drown on Sunday.
around on Sunday.
Don't ever drown on Sunday, he says.
We gotta hear about your honeymoon. Did you go play a ball game or something?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Well, we got married on,
On a Wednesday
we
night.
had a rehearsal for our wedding on September 1. We got married on September 2, and we had rehearsal September 3 for a friend of ours, who she had to stand up for the next night. And then the wedding the next night, so when she went to rehearsal for their wedding, that other wedding, and I played ball that night. I didn't play ball the night that I got married.
Oh, okay. I thought
Night
That was the
after.
night after.
So did you go on a honeymoon?
Not
I got
for
my-
a week.
the night after you didn't go to honeymoon because you had a ball game or something. That's
Right.
I got a notice in the mail the day that we got married. I had a notice that I had to go for my pre-induction examination into the service. And I had to go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for that because that's where I was registered. So we canceled our honeymoon and waited a week and then went to take my physical.
And they turned you down,
Played
right?
ball between time, I guess.
Yeah. He was-
play ball, but he couldn't go to the service. Picture, I don't know about that. You could slide home.
Because of the screws in your
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell that story,
Yeah.
Dad, if you can, how that all.
Well, it was when I was 16 years old. It was in May, and I graduated the 24th of May from high school. And I was 16 years old at the time. But before surgery, I guess it was about 2 weeks that I crippled and really had a sore leg. But couldn't convince my dad and mom that I had it. Well, I could convince my mother, but I couldn't convince my dad. I'd get home from school and I'd be limping, and he said, he says, you play ball all day long at school, he says, and at night you get home and you can't work. So I lived that way for 2 weeks, and finally my mom got my dad, and they both took me to Sioux City, Iowa, to a doctor to have x-rays and so forth. And I was in x-ray for probably a couple hours. And then they put us in a side room, and pretty soon the doctor came in and he said, Mr. and Mrs. Krommendyk, your son has a broken hip. And they decided right then and there that they're going to let me go home. My hip had broken, and it was starting to slide next to each other. The ball and socket had separated. And so they put me under traction for 3 days in the hospital to pull this back so that it would slip back in. Well, it never happened. They had to do that at surgery. But then when the doctor explained what was happening, and says there's a good chance that in 6 weeks or 6 months that your other one will go the same way. So they put me in a hospital under traction for 3 days, and then they operated on me, and they put 2 4-inch screws through this bone, just into the part of the bone that was still in the socket. And so that when that went like that, the thing turned again like it always did. And 6 months, almost to the day, I started limping on my other leg. And I walked crutches, of course, for, I think it's about 8 weeks. I walked crutches after the first surgery. And then my other hip went bad. And they operated on that, and I put all the weight on my other hip for the next 6 months. And then and that's why I had to have a hip replacement 12 years ago, because I walked too long on this right one. As soon as this other one started hurting, they fixed it, and I haven't had any problem with that. And those screws are still in there.
I don't know, both your hips are.
Yeah.
What did they say caused that?
They claim a lack of calcium, which is not
Which-
true, because I drank milk by the bucket.
No.
It still happens today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
It's
didn't know
got a
you had so-
name.
Slip epiphysis, they call
Yeah.
it.
So you had there's no pain in your left hip
No,
since? Can't even tell you ever.
no.
I didn't know you had.
But because I walked on this one too long, I damaged it, and that's why arthritis set into it. And that's why I had to have it replaced. And that
Been
is
12
not
years?
Huh?
Been 12 years.
Yeah. December 2 was 12 years. I played ball 3 nights a week when I was short, or right after we got married.
I always tell everybody I grew up at the ballpark.
I always
you
say
did.
I wore
With a
out
rope
2
around
baby
it.
buggies, throwing them in and out of the
Rope
truck.
around your
Yeah.
waist.
Uh-huh.
So you wouldn't bite anybody.
You can delete that off the video.
It was a
I think
leash.
every time we get together now, someone brings that up.
Later. Yeah, there is a blessing to be able to
Yeah.
enjoy the great grandkids. Yep.
Highly blessed. We have 40 in our family now. When I came from Iowa, I was all by myself. There's 40 of us now.
2
And
more
after,
on the way.
and I guess after Dan and Sue leave, half of them will be out of state.
They will.
And the other half will be around here.
Yeah.
Darwinian
There
success.
are 40 and 20 of
Said
them.
you're a Darwinian success. Spread those genes.
Yeah.
Day when we celebrated.
There's only 2 kids and 2 kids are here. Kristen and Sonny are gone.
No.
Crystal and Sonny and all of your kids. Jeff and Leslie and 2 kids over there.
Are you talking?
Kim's in
Well,
Minneapolis.
when they were
Kim's in
in the
Minneapolis.
middle of the country.
Hey, Mall of America works for me.
I'll go for that.
You all right, huh?
You haven't even been to St. Joseph yet.
No, I know.
Now you'll have to go see your brother.
I know.
Yeah, we got a bed for you.
Good.
Come on
Actually,
over.
there's 2.
You can all envy Kim, because Kim's going to live in Iowa sometime.
Yeah.
But I got good news, Kim. They got electricity there now.
That is good.
It's last year. Did you have any more, Chris? Or?
Well, I missed some, but did we talk at all about like when you guys were growing up?
Not a lot.
We don't remember any of that.
That was kind of a blur.
We could get together sometime and fill you in though.
We'll be sequel.
The sequel should be the 5 kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Chris, that was nothing but work, work, work.
You thought the farm was
Now he thought he was getting away from that on the farm.
I believe it.
On the pre-K, work no less.
Give me 5.
Make the battery last longer.
Well, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Kids and grandkids will appreciate that.
Yeah. Unplanned.
Derek,
Where is he?
Go ahead, man.
you gonna
Leaving him
sing for Papa with the piano?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go!
Upstairs. Oh, you too, Carissa.
Everybody.